1966. Network television news establishes the reality of the times. But the evening's TV fare continues with typical family entertainment. Typical, that is, until 8:30, when a new dramatic series premieres on NBC.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Star Trek quickly acquires a modest, devoted following, but fails to capture the audience it needs to maintain a prime-time presence. So, after 3 seasons and 4 different time slots, Star Trek is canceled. Star Trek is a phenomenon of unparalleled success, spawning a second series and 6 feature films, while the original remains one of the most popular syndicated shows on television. What accounts for Star Trek's unique popularity? Some of the answers lie stored in the memory banks of the show's original participants.
A pilot had been made the year before I came on the scene with Jeffrey Hunter as the captain of the Starship. I think it was Enterprise. And the network, NBC, didn't like it. But they loved the idea of this Star Trek. So they asked Gene Roddenberry to make another pilot and recast it. And so he did. And a new script was written. And I was captain.
And then, eventually, I had the first meeting with him, which was a meeting in which he was essentially describing what the series was going to be about, what the sets would look like. He showed me the plans. He took me through the wardrobe department, through the prop department, showed me the work in progress. This is getting real. Gave me a thumbnail sketch of the description of characters, which was really all there was in that. The character was to be fleshed out. And that's how it all began.
So, Gene tried to get me on the first pilot. That was backed away from it because he couldn't see me. That's the way they do. You see you as a heavy and the other things you can avoid a doctor. So, then they took a look. They happened to see Police Story, which I played a criminologist. So, I had called Gene to thank him for using me in both those pilots. And he said, don't hang up. He said, NBC saw the Police Story. And he said, they've decided to go with you for the doctor.
I'm trying to say, Doctor, I'm seeking a means of escape. Will you please be brief? Well, what I'm trying to say is you saved my life in the arena. Yes, that's quite true. I'm trying to thank you. Point it to your hobgoblin. Yes, humans have that emotional need to express gratitude. You're welcome, I believe, is the correct response. However, Doctor, you must remember that I'm entirely motivated by logic. The loss of our ship's surgeon, whatever I may think of his relative skill, would mean a reduction in the efficiency of the Enterprise, and therefore... Why, you're not afraid to die, Spock. You're more afraid of living. Each day you stay alive is just one more day you might slip and let your human half peek out.
So, it was a great feeling to be able to express myself in humanistic form because I felt that McCoy was more or less the audience. That if you look at Star Trek, what you're seeing a group of people who are very professional in what they do, and they are working in this bizarre world. And And at the same time, in this bizarre world, you're finding all the people still have problems that are going on day to day, just as we're experiencing now.
About 2 weeks before they were going to do the second pilot of Star Trek, I read for a different part in a different TV show. And the director of that was Jim Goldstone, who also did the pilot. He called me about 10 days later and said, Jimmy, he said, would you like to come and do some of your accents for these Star Trek people? I said, who are they? He told me. I said, what? That's fine, sure, I'll be there. Actually, it was a Saturday morning. There was Gene and Joe DeAugusta and I forget Gene's assistant at the time, and somebody else. And they handed me a piece of paper which didn't have any part for an engineer on it, you know, and they handed it to me. And I proceeded to read that in about 7 or 8 different accents. And at the end, Gene said to me, well, which one do you like? I said, well, if he's going to be an engineer, I think he's got to be a star.
They called me back. I came in, I interviewed, and they had not written my role yet. They had already done 2 pilots, sold the pilots, totally recast from the original pilot, and were ready to shoot when Gene Roddenberry subtly said to the network studio, going to make a little change on the bridge. Command crew, I just want to add a little color. And they said, fine, sure, no problem. Little did they know the little color that we wanted to add would change the face of television.
Gene Roddenberry's vision was for the Starship Enterprise to be a microcosm for the Starship Earth. All of the people that inhabit this planet would make up the crew of the Starship Enterprise. So that was a specific part of Gene's vision. And what he did in creating the character of Sulu, an Asian member of the crew of the Enterprise, he broke a major stereotype by creating a character who was a full professional, indeed possessing many heroic qualities, and a full member of the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. And for me, it was particularly important that this Asian character be seen like this as a member of that team, because at that time, in the 60s, we were engaged in a very hot war with Vietnam, where again, people that looked like me were the adversaries. So the power of the media here was utilized to balance and temper that, and to see someone with a face like this as a good guy, as a hero, as possessing qualities that one would want to emulate. And in so doing, I think Gene Roddenberry made an important contribution to the racial relationships in America at that time.
Well, I found myself totally comfortable in the world that he wanted to create, because I have never been a nuts and bolts science fiction fan. I have always been intrigued by the thematic ideas expressed in certain science fiction vehicles, and that you can express in the genre. And that's the kind of world he was creating. He was creating an environment in which writers could come and do thematic ideas in a science fiction vein, in science fiction, in the language of science fiction, using the language of science fiction. And it was a period of social ferment, activity, turmoil, change. One of the pertinent songs of the period was Bob Dylan singing "The Times Are Changing." And come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. If you aren't part of the solution, if you're part of the problem, you know, it was that kind of time. And I was very excited about the atmosphere that we were working in, because writers were given a chance to express their feelings, their ideas, their personal experiences on a variety of subjects that we theatrically could present. I'm not sure it was exactly what NBC was expecting.
How did those topical ideas come into the making of Star Trek? They came in by writers coming in with ideas, or producers having ideas that suggested it to the various individual writers. Say, try and run with this, and away they would go and make the first one.
All right, say I'm wrong, say I'm wrong. What is your sober, sensible solution?
I don't have a solution. Furnishing them firearms is certainly not the answer.
Bones. Do you remember the 20th century brush wars on the Asian continent? Two giant powers involved, much like the Klingons and ourselves. Neither side felt they could pull out.
Yes, I remember. It went on bloody year after bloody year.
What would you have suggested? That one side arm its friends with an overpowering weapon. Mankind would never have lived to travel space if they had. No. The only solution is what happened back then. Balance of power.
And if the Klingons give their side even more?
And we arm our side with exactly that much more. A balance of power. Trickiest, most difficult, dirtiest game of them all, but the only one that preserves both sides.
There was a great deal of the actors running to the front office and saying, I've got an idea, or how about this? And a great deal of front office saying, that's wonderful, and here's an addition to that. And there was a great deal of interplay between the various writers who came in, producers who were here, and the executive producer was Gene. There was an amalgam of people who contributed to making Star Trek that, and one idea bounced off of.
Anyway, about 3 weeks after I arrived, I was called in to read for Star Trek, and that was Balance of Terror. I read the Romulan commander, and somehow or other just hit me, so it was meant for me. The name of the segment was called The Balance of Terror, and it was reminiscent of a movie that had been done called The Enemy Below, the battle between an American destroyer commander and a German U-boat commander. The Romulans were a very warlike race. There had been some period of kind of quiet. They had established a neutral zone. There had been a terrible war some time before. In many ways, it was reminiscent of what was going on in the world at that time. There was a Cold War between a kind of uneven balance. It probably was kind of representing that in a way. And it has many different plots going at the same time, but the essential one, the strong one, is the balance in space between the Romulan commander and Captain Kirk. And in the end, the Romulan commander, again and again, says to Kirk,
No, it's not our way. I regret that we meet in this way. You and I are of a kind, in a different reality. I could have called you friend.
What purpose will it serve to die?
We are creatures of duty, Captain. I've lived my life by it. Just one more duty to perform.
and people like to leap on that as, you know, possibility.
People often ask me what is my favorite episode. City on the Edge of Forever was my favorite episode by Harlan Ellison, as we were discussing a short while ago. And the reason for that is that when I look at that show, and if you've ever seen it without any commercial, as it just runs through, I think it was the best ensemble piece of work that I had seen. And the whole show seemed to carry a marvelous mood with it.
The City on the Edge of Forever was an idea that I had for a while about the responsibility of time, about how no one's life is lived uselessly. No matter how peripheral you may seem to the events of the world, what you do is like dropping a pebble in a brook and the surface go out. And I wanted to tell it in the context of a very straight, simple love story. And the way I wanted to do it was to create a character who would be sympathetic, and I created Sister Edith Keeler, who was a prototype, simulacrum of Amy Semple McPherson, the evangelist.
The days and the years ahead are worth living for. One day, soon, man is going to be able to harness incredible energies, maybe even the atom. Energies that could ultimately hurl us to other worlds in some sort of spaceship. And the men that reach out into space will be able to find ways to feed the hungry millions of the world and to cure their diseases. They will be able to find a way to give each man hope and a common future. And those are the days worth living for.